İyi akşamlar, hoş geldiniz. Welcome to you all here in the Dutch chapel. And I must say I'm quite excited to see all these people here today from different backgrounds coming together to discuss or to listen to the presentations on the Levant trade and the Levant heritage. That also, I mean, from the point of view of the Netherlands, is a very topical, very relevant issue. And I say that because this year we mark 400 years since the establishment of the Dutch Levant Trade Chamber in Amsterdam, which was created in 1625. And we're very happy that this event kind of fits in very well into that commemoration and those activities that we try to support in also remembering this special connection between the Netherlands and this region, and in particular, of course, Istanbul and Izmir, because we have to say that in the early years of the Levant Trade Chamber, most focus was on Izmir more than on Istanbul. And we had a mission in Izmir, which was bigger and more important than the one in Istanbul. Of course, now that has changed a little bit, but still, I think those connections, those continuities, I think they're very important. They're also very much linked to this place where we are now here today. This Palais de Hollande, which was built in 1858, had predecessors built in wooden versions. We had two wooden palaces that as predecessors to the current palace. But these were built on the basis of the agreements that were reached with the Ottoman Empire and the capitulation that the Dutch received in 1612. So our history goes back more than 400 years, our official history, and we know traders already before found their way and were trading in these regions. But first 1612, the capitulation, diplomatic relations were established between the Ottoman Empire and the new republic in the Netherlands. And then 1625, as I was saying, at the Levant Trade Chamber in Amsterdam. Amsterdam, by the way, is also having an anniversary birthday this year. They're celebrating 750 years, much younger than Istanbul, but for the Netherlands, it's quite a considerate age for a city. But so 1625, the trade chamber, which was very important for the mission here. If we look back in the history and in the archives of the embassy, of the consulate, then you will see that in the quantity of correspondence, much more was exchanged with the chamber, especially in those years in the 17th and 18th century, than with the ministry. So you could see that the trade and the commercial part and the interest that the Republic had in this region, also when the colonies later in Indonesia in the east were joined, this became a very strategic place for the trade and for the Dutch traders. So, and I also often joke that this trade chamber, and I also say that sometimes to the Dutch Business Association, you're kind of one of the reasons, one of the big sponsors of our activities here in terms of our raison d'etre. I think if we look in the status and the profile that the Dutch has achieved here in Istanbul, this could never have happened without that strong commercial, economic backbone of companies, of traders, maintaining those connections and having this interest in investing, in exploring the relationships and opportunities here in the Ottoman Empire and today in the Turkish Republic. So I'm not an expert on these topics. I'm looking very much forward to the presentations and to the discussions. But again, just to show, and also by way of my introduction, to show my interest in this and also my gratitude for the organizers, for the Levantine, for the Heritage Foundation, and to the DBA and all the others that made this possible today. I think it's quite a unique event. I don't think we have had this kind of gathering, these kind of different organizations working together on this theme here in our chapel. So I'm very, as I said, I'm very happy, excited to have you here. I wish you a very interesting and productive evening, listening to the presentation, but also making a new network connections, because that is always, I think, also part of our mission, to create opportunities to bring people together, to make connections that could lead to mutual benefits, to trade or otherwise. So thank you for being here, and I think I would like to invite Ufuk to say a few words to you as well.
Dear valued guests, welcome first of all, and thank you that you're coming in this hot weather period, and it's awesome in here. This is Ufuk. I am the chairperson of Dutch Business Association and the general manager of Randstad Turkey. Randstad Turkey is the global leader in the field of human resources services. First of all, I would like to thank you for coming here, because I'm very excited today, as we have got approximately 70 or 60 people here. And in this period of time, it's a great number. It's a good opportunity for us to get to know each other and learn from each other. And I also would like to thank Mr. Aryan Iterinde, the Consul General, for hosting us here, helping us and supporting us for this valuable event, and for sure DBA members here, and as well Levantine community. The Dutch Business Association is a bridge in between Dutch and Turkish business ecosystems, and we are super happy. We have always been super happy to collaborate with various organizations, the likes of the chambers, the other business ecosystems, and also non-profit organizations. And today it will be another good example that we will be getting together with the Levantine community, that we will be super happy. And on the other side, Levantine community from our side has always been representing a strong business ecosystem in Turkey. But not only that, actually, they are a very good example of a strong, let's say, significant impact on our socio-cultural environment as well. So I will be super excited, as I said, and we will be happy. Let's enjoy the rest of the day. Thanks.
I have my paper, sorry, because I will do the introduction of our speakers that I don't know by heart. So sorry for that. So thank you very much. A warm welcome to all of you, dear Consul General Mr. Iterinde, the dear President of DBA, Turkey, dear representatives of Istanbul Metropolitan Municipality, İBB, dear members of Levantine Kültür ve Mirasını Koruma Derneği, Dutch Business Association, and Levantine Heritage Foundation. Dear speakers, Henryk, Drowniak, Jonathan Bird, and dear guests, at the 400th anniversary of the Chamber of Levantine, as the Consul General mentioned, an important institution founded in Netherlands and aiming to coordinate maritime relations with the Ottoman Empire, we are proud to organize this event together with Dutch Business Association and with the hospitality of the Consulate. So today's conference topic is Levantine impact and influence on maritime trade. Levantine communities, or in other words, Europeans who have lived here on those lands for centuries, for generations, and who have been an integral part of the local communities, have made significant social, economic, and cultural contributions from the Ottoman Empire till present. Our association, Levantine Kültür ve Mirasını Koruma Derneği, aims to research and promote those contributions, as well as to preserve it, the culture and heritage as much as it can, because we are few people left at the moment. With this aim, each year we organize conferences celebrating the influence of Levantine communities in various fields such as diplomacy, maritime trade, art, etc. So this is our third year, The first one had taken place in Palais de France with the French Consulate, then followed by Italian Embassy in 2024 in Palazzo Venezia, and this year we are within the premises of the Consulate within this very nice chapel, beautiful chapel. Hopefully next year we will be in another consulate. Today we have our dear members of the association, Henryk and Jonathan, with us, two Levantine friends who have been both involved in maritime trade for more than 50 years. Such an impressive set of experience that I cannot cover every aspect of it, but as a short introduction, Henryk is chairman of Shark Express Shipping Agency and at the same time board member of the Association of Ship Owners and Agents. Currently, he is intensively involved in promoting Turkish shipping agency business in international platforms. Jonathan is the chairman of Katani Group of Companies, the fifth generation in the family business. The group has operations in logistics and trade in Turkey, Black Sea and Central Asia, registered in 1857 in Istanbul, Hatay. He has held a number of executive roles such as chairman, British Chambers of Commerce, commission member, ICC, British honorary consul. He is among the founders of our association, Levantine Kültür ve Mirasını Koruma Derneği, and the trustee of Levantine Heritage Foundation. I'm sure that we will have a very fruitful conference, and I'm looking forward to meet all of you in the detailed event. Thank you very much. Stage is yours, Henryk, Jonathan. Welcome.
Thank you, Patricia. Thank you, Consul General. Thank you, DMD, and thank you to all the sponsors who contributed to make this event possible. And thank you for all of you to come this evening here this afternoon with this hot weather. I don't have to introduce myself anymore. Patricia did it very well, thank you. I'll just start how I came here. 5 or 6 months ago, Patricia called me and said, can you supply me with some information or documents or something like that about the Levantines and the shipping, especially the Dutch Levantines living in Turkey. So I said, why we have such an event? We will do it in the Consulate of the Netherlands. I said, okay, let me first try to see what I can find. I found a set of documents about Henry van der Zee, Dutch merchant and agent who was settled in the Ottoman Empire. And finally, I ended to be a speaker of this event. Anyway, thank you again. So I'm starting my presentation. I will not bore you too much. Who were the Levantines and who are we? Historically significant community of predominantly European origin who settled and lived in the eastern Mediterranean port cities, mainly Izmir, at the time Smyrna, Istanbul, Constantinople, Iskenderun, Alexandria, and Beirut. The origins were, in fact, they mostly descended from Italian origin, Genoese and Venetian, French, British, Austrian, German, and Dutch families. All of them were Christians, mainly Catholic and Anglican Protestant, distinguishing them from the local Christian communities like Armenians, Greeks, Syriac, etc., who were already living in the Ottoman Empire. They arrived as merchants, diplomats, and artisans, and they formed close-knit semi-autonomous communities, often under the protection of European consulates. spoke French, English, Italian, Greek, Turkish, or German. Just as an example, in my family, we were speaking French at home, and my parents, between themselves, were speaking Greek, just would not let understand what they were speaking. And on the other side, Italian to my mother. Unfortunately, I couldn't learn Polish. My father was Polish, but I couldn't learn Polish, so I'm still going on with Greek, Italian, French, English, and Turkish, of course. My wife has one of my sister who is within the guests is speaking also the same languages. My elder daughter is speaking these languages, but the small one, unfortunately, refused to learn any other language, so she speaks only English and a few words of Italian. So we maintain European cultural traditions while integrating with local society. We lived in distinctive neighborhoods with European-style architecture, churches like Galata, Beyoğlu, Pera, Moda, Şişli, Yeşilköy in Istanbul, Alsancak, Karşıyaka, Bornova in Izmir. They dominated the foreign trade, shipping, banking, industries, and consular services in the Ottoman Empire. They were very active in the agency business. They contributed to the modernization of the empire through their involvement, particularly in trade, art, education, architecture, printing, and technology. The Levantine shipping agents played a critical role in connecting east to west through maritime trade. They operated as intermediaries in Ottoman port cities Salonika, Istanbul, Smyrna, Alexandria, Iskenderun, and Beirut from the 17th century onward. Agents were of European or mixed descent, French, British, Italian, again, Dutch, Yugoslavian, German, and Greek, with multilingual skills, of course. They managed cargoes, negotiated with port authorities, and represented foreign merchants. Now we come to the reason why we came here, why the Levantines were living in the Ottoman Empire. There was the famous capitulations of the commercial power. The capitulation, or in other words, trade agreements signed between the Ottoman Empire and various European powers from the 14th century onward. The first capitulation was dating back to 1352, granted by Orhan Gazi to the Republic of Genoa. A major milestone was 1536 with an extensive capitulations granted by Suleiman the Magnificent to France. The capitulations granted economical, legal, religious privileges to European merchants and states within the Ottoman territory and gave a significant autonomy and influence in trade facilitation. They got legal autonomy through consuls under the Nordic laws. They've got tax exemptions or reductions, especially on custom duties and trade taxes. They've got the freedom of religion and worship for Christians and Jews. And finally, trade privileges. Foreign merchants could operate freely and often had protection on their property and ships. The capitulations and various trade agreements attracted the European merchants into Ottoman Empire, and main commercial activities were handled by these merchants. The cargo and passenger transport was effected by means of ships, either sail ships or steamships, and the European post offices were using these ships for the transport of mails and important documents. Thus, these services were requiring regular calls of these ships. I will tell you a story of an Italian merchant who came in 1630 and onward. I don't remember exactly the name, the date. He was called, Alvise Gritti. Alvise Gritti was the son, the illegitimate son of the Doge di Venezia, the Duke of Venice. He was grown in Venice, and then suddenly, as all, came to Istanbul and became an important merchant. He gained a significant influence in Istanbul. He was known in the Ottoman Empire as Beyoğlu, which means the son of the Bey, the son of the Duke of Venice. And so the neighborhood of Beyoğlu was called. He maintained a direct contact with the Venetian government and the Ottoman Empire. He was directly dealing with the Duke of Venice and the Ottoman Empire. He acted as a bridge between Venice and the Ottoman Empire. And there is a very important chapter in the book, the Doge di Venezia, which is just explaining his stay in Istanbul. He was so important and so influential that he was imprisoned for smuggling of precious metals, and even in prison he continued to influence the relations between the Venetians and the Ottoman Empire. So, back to our presentation. The powers enjoying the privileges were France, 1536, England, 1580, and the Netherlands, as the Consul General stated, 1612. Venice, Austria, Sweden, Prussia, and others throughout the 17th and the 19th century. Within the privileges granted to France, an important one was that the French-flagged vessels were allowed to transport goods between Ottoman ports, what we call today the cabotage rules. And therefore foreign merchants, except Venetians, were forced to use French-flagged vessels. In 1612, with the intense pressure of the Dutch ambassador, His Excellency William Harbour, a Dutch merchant named Cornelius van Hagen, who was then settled in Istanbul, obtained the same allowances as the French. Thus opened the door for various foreign merchants to obtain the same privileges. By 1871, the foreign shipping companies calling the Ottoman Empire, the ports, were requested to open either a branch office or appoint an agent in these ports. Now we come to the main subject, the Levantines as shipping agents. Why the Levantines were so active in the shipping business? They were intensely involved in the trade, had been the main candidates to represent shipping lines due to their vast knowledge of the trade of the local merchants and local rules, their multilingual capacities giving the chance to owners to deal with their agents in their own language, their reliability, professionalism, and trustfulness. Here I'm giving you a list of the foreign lines which were calling the Ottoman Empire ports. As you see, they are all foreign companies, Archipelago American as a steamship company, Compagnie de Navigation à Vapeur Panhellénique. We see down there also the Dutch company, Néerlandaise de Navigation, but I can't see now the name. Anyway, these are the main lines who were calling the Turkish ports both for cargo and for hostages. Due to this very intense trade through maritime channels, disputes between the parties started to grow, and to avoid all these problems, renowned 28 agents have agreed to form a body which would act as an intermediary between the shipping companies' authorities, the companies' authorities, merchants and brokers, and founded the 6th of November in 1902, the Chambre Maritime des Compagnies de Navigation Étrangère à Constantinople, who was then registered in Turkish as Ecnebi Seyri Sefahin Kumpanyaları Devsade Bahriye Odası. It's difficult to even pronounce anyway. Here is, Patricia found it, the statutes of the first foundation of the Chamber of Commerce, written in French, and it's dated back to 1902. And here you have the founder members, who are all foreign companies, represented by a Levantine agent in Istanbul. The first board members were Charles de Chaux as president. He was the agent of Messagerie Maritime. The vice president was Mr. Bartolo. He was the agent of La Florio Rubertino, an Italian company. Vice president Mr. Pechenev, agents of the La Compagnie de Navigation Russe. The secretary Seymery, he was the agent of Service Maritime Roumain. Accountant Mr. Alfred Silly, he was the agent of Kedikyal Mail Line. Jonathan will talk about that famous line. A member of the board was Mr. De Jugovic. He was the agent of Lloyd Autrichien. Members Mr. Sparrow, agents of Deutsche Levante Line, and another member was Mr. Manu, agent of Compagnie Royale Néerlandaise. This is the company I was mentioning before. This is a picture that is still in our association's walls. It's not that old, but you see the names. There are Turkish names, there are Levantine names, there are Greek ones, there are Jewish ones. This is dating back to late 70s, something like that. The Champ Maritime de Compagnie de Navigation Étrangère à Constantinople has changed its name a few times throughout the years in order to adhere to local legislation and requirements, and has finally been named in '73 as the Maritime Association of Ship Owners and Agents in Istanbul. The association has played the role of a maritime chamber until '82, when the Istanbul Maritime Chamber, İMEAK, İstanbul Marmara Ege, Akdeniz ve Karadeniz Deniz Ticaret Odası, has been officially founded. Today, with its 123 years of history, the Maritime Association of Ship Owners and Agents in Istanbul is still very active and is considered as a reference point both locally and internationally. Among its 115 members, which represent almost 90% of the shipping business in Turkey, Levantine-owned agencies are still members. I have cited here some Levantine families who actively contributed in the agency business. They are in the alphabetical order: Arkas, Birman, Katoni, Kampaner, Udo, Shonev, Dabkovic, Dutil. I would like to point here Dutil. The Dutil brothers have for a long time been the consulate, the honorary consulate of the Netherlands in Izmir. We have the Levante family, Mazzar family in Samsun, Rossi family who started the agency business in Samsun, then went back to Ravenna in Italy, and I was today in a lunch with the third generation of Rossi family in Istanbul before coming here. Stamboli family, he was my uncle. Van der Zee family, another Dutch family and company, the Whittles, Wilkinsons, and so on. What was the impact, in fact, of the Levantines and the shipping with the trade? The role played by Levantines were exporters, agents, broker, insurance on trade operations. In shipping lines, ports, and consular agencies, important ship infrastructure. They were linked with the Ottoman world, with Western Europe as a cultural bridge, and they founded Chamber of Commerce's Marine Law Consulate as institutional legacy. Modernization, of course, early adopters of steam rail telegraph and accounting systems. This is it from me. I think that I have given a vague idea of what we are and what we are doing in shipping agency business. Now to go into the history, I will just invite Jonathan, my good old friend, to talk and to start from very fast. Thank you.
Good evening, Consul General. Thank you very much, and thank you very much, Chairman, and thank you very much, Craig Enger, for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, what a pleasure to address you. I really don't have to say very much. We can go and have a glass of wine. He said it all. But I will actually start with a thing or two. This is just to put us into perspective. Here we have the plate significantly signifying when Catoni bought the Levantine business exactly 100 years and 2 months ago. Here we have, and I'll come to this, the Lloyd's Shield, which represented the centenary of Catoni as Lloyd's agents in Istanbul. Here we have the shield of the Ottoman Bank, or the Bank on the actual key, celebrating 110 years that Catoni worked with the Ottoman Bank. And they've always been very happy with us, and we've been very happy with them, and the relation continues as guaranteed. And this here, this rather wonderful inkwell, was presented to my uncle, Augustin Catoni, as the honorary British consul in Istanbul. So our family have been honorary consuls in Istanbul for 90 years. My time was between 1975 and the year 2000. Then I was retired. And now I put two other pieces up. One of them, an indication of, it used to be referred to Levantine Catoni, Alexandrette, as was mentioned a while ago. Today, Istanbul, another visual of the Levantines. And this I will leave up for a moment while we go forward. So I was thinking, how on earth should I go about writing this? And it reminded me of a story. 2 years ago, my very good friend was getting married, and he said, "Jonathan, would you please be my best man?" And I said, "Well, that's a great honor. Why on earth do you want me to be your best man?" Well, we've been friends for many years, and so on. So the evening came by, and I made the speech as the best man, and then it was the speech of the groom. Everybody was sitting and watching with great expectation, if you like. And the groom, who I knew very well, he was not quite as illiterate or literate as one would expect, reeled off this magnificent speech, looking into the eyes of his wife. And she looked up in him in awe and happiness and delight. But there was a view of puzzlement in her face, her expression. And he said, you know, if it weren't for AI, I wouldn't have been so romantic. So if I say this, it's partly because I also use AI, but not to be romantic, but to be a little bit more to the point. So allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to expand a little bit on what my dearest friend has said. He also used AI, by the way. my paper attempts to trace the origins and the evolution of the ship ages in the Levant, or rather the East Mediterranean, from archaic classic periods through to the Roman Byzantine period. If I do this, make it easy to follow. And how terribly important it was, this part, and would we believe that maritime trade in this part of the world, the Eastern Mediterranean, was actually more profound than anywhere else in the world in those times. And I'll give you a small example of this. I've had the pleasure of diving with scuba tanks along the Turkish coast, and I've dived for 30 years with the Institute of Nautical Archaeologists. And during that time, I've dived on Phoenician wrecks, on Turkish, or rather Ottoman wrecks, on Byzantine wrecks, and Roman wrecks. This indicates just how prolific the trade had been in the Eastern Mediterranean, from Phoenicia, from Egypt, through Turkey, Cyprus, to Greece, and on, of course, to Italy and further away. Such maritime commerce required the coming of a local intermediary known as a proxenos, thus came to being the agent. Little has changed over the centuries. They maintained their port city presence. They laid the groundwork for more formal roles and responsibilities towards shipping. And in the Roman Byzantine period, this growing complexity of maritime trade and logistics implies these intermediaries develop a legal text and official status, indeed a sort of customs trade facilitation status, which was referred earlier by my dear friend. They were citizens appointed by foreign city-states to look after its nation's trade. The role was honorary, and its functions a cross between a consul and an agent. And I'll come back to this element of consul and an agent. To give some examples of this, we need to look no further than Istanbul, dear Istanbul, Turkey, where the Levantine family, Levante family, were honorary consuls and ship agents, where Boutros, and one of my good friends is sitting here, Boutros, agent and consul, Marzumi, agent and consul, Beard, agent and consul, Beard Katoni, agent and consul. As in the present, they are all protectors of the merchant's property, and to give reference to inscriptions from ancient Phoenicia, Egypt and Greece, the Levant, the cities of Delos, Rhodes, Sidon, Tyre, show these proxenos as instrumental in the shipping and the navigation and the trade area. Here then came the late Roman Byzantine era with the conquest of the East Mediterranean in this period. The shipping world of the Levant was unfolding into a highly regulated imperial economic system, necessitating the more formalized role of the agent to serve what then became known as the navicular and the stationicular, terms given to ship owners, and the latter who were given the original and official status as supervisors of cargoes, movements, and holding port records, manifests, charter party agreements. These records keeping and are still found in Alexandria, Egypt, and Antioch, or rather Istanbul. If you like, we may now move to the medieval period of the 5th, 15th century. The Mediterranean transitioned to the Levant remained a vital corridor of maritime commerce. Despite shifting politics, the local intermediaries were busy representing ships, cargo, and their roles included negotiating freight rates, paying port charges, dues, organizing loading and unloading of cargoes, and more. By the mid-13th century, the Islamic world reassessed its control over the Levant, and other ports like Gaza, Jaffa, today in Israel, were incorporated in a highly structured maritime administration system, not quite the same as Byzantine and Rome. But here again, the intermediaries whose functions had been expanded was an irreplaceable part of maritime trade. Interestingly enough, and I don't know if you've ever come across this, the word wakali. Wakali is an Arab word, but if we translate it into Turkish, it becomes vekili. And I make this as a point because as a result of trade between the East and the West Mediterranean, so went the lingua franca, so went the terminologies. If one were to be in France or Italy and say, if you were on a sailing ship, let's say, and you say a la bora or a la banda, if you were in Egypt, they would understand the same because the crews on the ships going back were all speaking the same language. So this is a very important thing. It's a good demonstration of wakali in Arabic is vekili in Turkish, and a term used in Tripoli, in Beirut, in Latakia, in Tartus, and Banyas, where I was just a week ago. Fast forward to the post-Islamic and up to the 19th century, the medieval era witnessed a decisive shift in maritime agent practices brought on by the expansion of European empires, Britain, France, Italy. And increasing global trade, the Levant continued to function as a commercial conduit, especially in the Ottoman-controlled East and South Mediterranean. These developments set a scene for modern professional ship agents, as referred above, and at that time, as in the Dutch Republic, when negotiating capitalization to secure from the Ottoman Empire commercial privileges, these agreements allowed for the establishment of resident consuls at Ottoman ports, as in the Dutil family in Izmir, representing the Dutch shipping companies, but also being the honorary consul of the Netherlands. Kertoni was appointed as Lloyd's agent, as you saw a moment ago, as agent in south of Turkey in 1885. At the same time, Whittle was appointed Lloyd's agent in North Turkey. It not only allows one to appreciate the establishment of the insurance market in maritime transport, but also the reliability of the local agents for their dependability and honesty. In fact, if I may refer to documented evidence where agents were recorded as reliable or unreliable agents. Critical for ships' captains arriving at ports from Alexandria to all of the East Mediterranean. These locals were not only responsible for cargo damage reporting, but expanded their activity to ship repair, ship chartering, bunkering, health and safety, taking care of crew, and arranging the free pratique for the vessels on berthing. Interestingly enough, I happened to be in Beirut last week visiting my dear friend Harriet Jolly. Harriet Jolly is the 5th generation of the Henryk company. The Henryk company started its business 20 years before Kertoni. So that would be 1837. And despite the civil war in the Lebanon, she still continues the family business as a fifth generation. We need only go across to Cyprus and see the same applies there. Orphanides and Murat started their business 70 years ago, and they continue to operate in Cyprus, even though the island had been divided. And if we were to go to the Horn of Africa, there we see Galatli Hanki, who to this day continue their shipping business as they had done 90 years ago. And then if we go to the Far East, we come across John Swire and Company. John Swire, you may not know, but if you know HSBC, or if you float on Cathay Pacific, that's John Swire. So here we are seeing the enormous geographic coverage, if you like, and the longevity of these agents and their successes of one sort or another. We now come to the late Ottoman reforms, the Tazminat reforms, which brought about the modernization of harbors and ports, the full establishment of customs houses, and the licensing of agents earlier referred to by my dear friend Henryk. The introduction of the steamship and regular liner services required elements that are observed today by agents. The formalities before the vessel arrives, the cargo discharge on the loading of vessels or discharging, the booking of cargo. Effectively, the agent has now, in this modern time, become a fabric of the ship owner. So the agent is not just a person who is an agent who has nothing to do other than book in a ship and out a ship. No, he actually becomes a part and parcel of the vessel. That vessel is put in the jurisdiction of the agent. He does all the management of the cargo, the crew, and the operation of the vessel. Such has become the business of the agent. In conclusion, as mentioned earlier, from the intermediaries of the medieval era to the professionals agents of the 19th, 20th century, Levant maritime intermediaries evolved in tandem with shifting imperial, legal, and logistics systems, that their core functions representing the ship and its interests remain fundamentally unchanged. This continuity has set the stage for contemporary global ship agents whose responsibilities today are embedded in commercial advocacy, also in international law, data protection, governance, and regular compliance. Today, we see the likes of Waterfront, Gulf Agency Company, Multiport Shipping Company, who are now global agents. And this is a very good thing, though it does put my friend under a lot of pressure, myself as well, but they have brought and they have protected this very important thing as data governance, regularity, and good compliance. Were we to challenge the thought of longevity or continuity of the agent versus the merchant or the representative of a foreign business, we very quickly come to the realization that the agent remains through centuries in one place and in one business, whereas so many of these families from Turkey and the Levant no longer exist. One therefore begs to ask, why is this the case? Effectively, there are two answers to this. The first is sustainability, and the second is succession. Without either, the business doesn't go anywhere. Thank you.
Yeah, normally I wouldn't need any introduction, but half of you are not my members, so my name is Willem van den Bos, I'm the Secretary General of the Dutch Business Association. I'm very happy to see exactly half of the DBA members and exactly half of the Levantine members. Well, of course, it's warm, we all like to drink, but come on, we started 4:15 anyway, you know, it's your speech. So, first of all, thank you very much. What I usually do at our events is some Q&A, short Q&A, because we heard, well, I didn't know what Levantine was, but I got the presentation 2 days ago, and I know you didn't use AI because I capitalized many things and, you know, deleted double spaces, so all handwritten. So we heard about the history, what is Levantine, what they're still doing today. You answered already some of the questions, Jonathan, at the end. But maybe some of the Levantine Chamber members had some questions, or maybe my members, or something about the presentation, or added questions that you have.
Well, actually, there's one thing that I forgot to say. Do I need a microphone? Do I need a microphone?
Yes.
There is one thing that I didn't put in here. It should have been in writing, perhaps recorded somewhere. Which business has the return on investment as much as the ship agent's business? Hardly any of them. Because it's the ship owner that buys the ship. It's the ship owner that insures the ship, and it's the ship owner or the fleet manager who arranges the employment of the crew. So what does the agent do? He sends a pro forma invoice to the owner saying, if you're coming to this port, you have to pay $120,000 to berth your ship, operate your ship, and leave. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. And what happens then? The money is sent, the agent pays the dues to the port, the harbour master, the tug, the stevedores, and what have you. And then there remains a certain amount of money. That's the agent's money. So what has he done? How much investment has he made? Nothing, except a few people working in his office, the 3 people in his office, and the 2 people in my office.
About the connection information, it is
This is in fact the reliability of the agents, because the owners are sending money to these agents who they know through an email or through a book or through something. So to be reliable is get, let's say, $120,000, pay the authorities with the amount you have to pay, and return either the money to the owners and be paid after that. We have now cases where the money was sent to agents, the agents disappeared with such big amounts. So this is why the Levantines through the years were believed to be reliable and trustworthy. Another issue is the cargo delivery. The agents are delivering the cargo to the final owners. So the owners is in fact responsible for the cargo ownership. And the agent is even more responsible because he checked the documents supplied to him, whether they are true or not, whether they are false or not. And then you release a cargo of maybe $1 million, $10 million value to someone who presents new documents. This is the reliability.
I think I can do one better than him. You should ask him what happened to his management when he made a mistake. Mistake being he wrote, he made a mistake in writing out a manifest which goes to the customs, and then you discharge the ship. It won't be tied you if your manifest says one figure and something else comes off the ship. So here I'm addressing the upside. I've just addressed the upside. The downside is there is risk. And in some countries, more in semi-developed nations, the customs authorities are, if you like, an element of the Ministry of Finance. So part of their role is in fact to protect the finance or increase the finance of the nation. So you come across very awkward situations like that. And in our case, Katoli, we had our chief executive who was actually imprisoned because a vessel arrived in Mersin from a Russian port discharging fuel oil. It discharged 700 tons of fuel oil, whereas the manifest showed 1,000 tons, or the captains declared 1,000. So the question was, how is it that this ship actually discharged 700, whereas it was 1,000? What happened to the 300 tons of fuel oil? Well, I don't know what the cost was at the time, but that was enough for the customs to tell the police that, okay, under these circumstances, the chief executive is taken and remains in prison for 36 hours before the legal counsel was actually able to have him taken away. Very unfair that these things happen. So the agent actually, again, becomes a fabric of the owner. If the owner makes a big mistake or has bad intention, the agent is the one who picks up the responsibility for it.
Right. Well, I know we have some members in shipping and agency. Brookman, Abdullah, you just walked in 5 minutes before the end. So do you have any questions at Brookman Logistics?
No, I will have a discussion afterwards. That's why we are in the same industry, yes. Okay.
That's good.
Thank you very much. Dear gentlemen, thank you very much. Sorry. Thank you very much for this informative session. And this is for the history. Do you have any kind of historical records that show how the first Levantines has been designated in all times? Do you have any personal reasons?
You mean about the association?
Yeah. No, in all times when those, how those people are being picked. How they people has been selected to send as a Levantine on those. It's by their own wishes or is it by some kind of authorization or appointment or
It was by their own
decision.
well, experience, let's say. If they were involved in the trade, they were known by the merchants, they were known by the ship's owners, they were known by the captains at the time. So, when you ask to a captain, to whom should I give the authority to act on your behalf, the captain will say, Jonathan or Henryk or whoever it is. So this is the start. And then reliability, professionalism, trustfulness and everything comes at a later stage. But they were all, in fact, not agents. They were merchants, traders, who acted as agents, intermediaries between the merchants, the buyers.
It was evolved by the time from merchants.
One more question, we have a question. I cannot think of it.
So we are a survey company, inspection. I am also a committee member of Turkish Chamber of Shipping. As I see Levantines behind the legacy to the Turkish shipping sector as the Chamber of Shipping. And how do you see today's leadership of the Chamber of Shipping in the Levantines eyes?
we are the members, we are all
Yeah, you are
members
also
of the
the agency.
Maritime
You are also
Chamber.
a member.
I'm a member of the committee as well. So we
How
are
do you see the leadership of today's Chamber of Commerce? You are supporting
very good. In fact,
you like.
the president of the Maritime Chamber is a very young ship owner, very well known to us. He's a friend of us. He's doing quite well business. And I mean, his second term, let's hope for the third term as well.
Livio?
Yeah. If I may, first of all, I would like to thank Jonathan and Henryk for very enlightening and interesting. I'm not in the shipping business, but I do like history. And one thing I was interested in is the relative evolution of the importance of the various ports and harbors in the Ottoman Empire of the Mediterranean. I think Constantinople was not the largest one. In fact, Chios, Izmir, maybe Beirut or even Alexandria were more important. So how did it evolve over time? And the various shipping agents, they seem to all have been very regional. Did the network of shipping agents have its own, let's say, pan-Ottoman association to communicate or not? I was just curious about that. Thank you.
Do you want to know? Are you sure?
Yes. Then I will add something on that.
Thank you, Livio. I would say, in actual fact, the agent's prosperity depended very much on the economy and the progress of the nation in which the agent found himself. For very many years, the businesses as an agent in Lebanon, in the port of Beirut, or Tripoli, or if you like, pre the civil war in Syria, the agent operating with Latakia or Tartus, or before this divide of the island of Cyprus, the agent operating with Famagusta, were all doing extremely well because the economies and the trade of those nations were very good. Another point is that as ports grew in size, so they attracted more tonnage, more ships started coming to those ports. Obvious, they arrived at the port and they were berthed right away, and the cargo was discharged or other cargo loaded, and the ship would leave without waiting 1, 3, 5, 7 days. In the time, a ship with 6 holds, with cargo that is palletized or in boxes or in jute bags would take a long time to discharge. Today, none of those cargoes are, they may be palletized, they're all in containers. And these container ships are huge, as you've seen them on the Bosphorus. I think 18, 20, 22,000 container ships. That ship costs in the region of $20,000 a day. And maybe a little bit below that. So if a vessel arrives at the port and has to wait 10 days before it can be berthed, that's $2 million or whatever. Therefore, ships were attracted to countries where the port infrastructures were large. And where the port infrastructure was large, so the facilities were there. And where the facilities were, everything was digitalized. So the port of Mersin is owned by the Singapore Port Authority. The port of one of the others is owned by Dubai Port Authority. These are digitalized ports, and they are taking all the businesses, all the shipping from the ports which were owned by Hejj, to Türkiye Cumhuriyeti'nin devletleri bunlar. I hope that answers the question.
I will ask you a more general question. Thank you for making us sail through the history and through the salty waters, mainly around the Ottoman lands. So you have a great experience of it, and really appreciate you more than and really understand. What can you say about the maritime culture of Turkish people in general? Because you know many nations around you. So how can you compare or speak frankly, please?
Tell you the truth. If we are talking...
I'm going to get up right now.
No, to be honest. Although we are surrounded with seas, unfortunately, the maritime trade was not that much developed for years. But nowadays, let's talk about the last 30 or 40 years, the shipping grew in an exponential way. And now we are proud to say that the Turkish maritime industry is very well placed in the world of shipping. We have nothing to compare with the old owners and the new generations. Everything has changed. Everything has changed in our business as well. I will just add, I remember a vessel which was sailing from India to Istanbul with cotton bales. We were talking of almost 300 bills of lading for different receivers. These bills of lading had to be transmitted in manifest. These manifests were done by typewriters in 8 copies of such wide documents. So imagine one mistake, you just throw everything up and you start again. And we are talking of 70 pages, 80 pages of cargo manifest. Now we are sitting in front of the computer, filling the boxes and everything. And this is how we... this is, it's boring maybe. When I started business in 76, the VHF, I mean the equipment to talk to the vessels were not allowed. So when a vessel was passing from the Netherlands to Istanbul, and we had to know when she would arrive in Istanbul, just make the documents in time. There was no way to communicate with the vessel. So when she was passing Çanakkale, we were asking for our agent there, what is the color of the vessel? I don't know. The accommodation is on the stern, on the aft, and on the middle. And we had at that time Cemil Bey, who was the guardian of the Yeşilköy lighthouse. We were calling him and saying, look, a vessel, a red vessel called X, passed Çanakkale at 10 o'clock in the morning. She's expected 12 hours after in Istanbul. Let us know when you see a red vessel coming to Istanbul, so we will just go. We went, there was fog, there was no way to follow the vessels. We went with a red vessel which was not ours. So this is what we did. Now it's completely different. We are communicating with the ships by phones. We know every single one. We open our phones and we say, no, you are not there. You are 5 miles from Istanbul or whatever it is. So things have completely changed. And this is how we are trying to.
Thank you very much. Well, we had more time for more questions. We have more time for more drinks. All right.